As we know, the Gospel of John is different from the other three Gospels. Matthew and Mark and Luke tell essentially the same story of Jesus from different perspectives, and they add or leave out various episodes of Jesus' ministry. John, on the other hand, tells a different story of Jesus' time on earth. It's more of a spiritual biography, beginning not with Jesus' genealogy or his birth, or even his baptism. But John reaches far back to the beginning of time. He says, "In the beginning was the Word." He's talking about Jesus. "And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that was made." Now the passage we just read is part of a long section describing the Last Supper. However, John doesn't describe the meal or the blessing of the wine and the bread, which has become our sacrament of communion. Instead, John describes a long discourse in which Jesus is preparing his disciples for a time when he would not be with them. Some of this is almost like a sermon, but some of it's like we're listening in on a prayer between Jesus and God. The hour of his departure, the hour of his crucifixion is approaching. And Jesus prays that his disciples should know the Father as he has known his Father, that they will know the love that his Father has given him, that God will encourage them to have confidence and hope in the face of his coming suffering and the end of his ministry and the beginning of their ministry in the world. Throughout chapter 17, the first part of which we have just read, John uses the word give or giving 9 times, which is not unusual since he uses the word over 17 times in his entire gospel. Here, John is talking about Jesus and explaining about love, the unconditional love that God has gifted him, an extravagant gift that gave him the strength to continue his ministry even in the face of criticism and harassment and his upcoming death on the cross. This gift of love from God to the Son unites the two as one, so that Jesus is one person with 2 natures, God and human together, individual, inseparable. John then describes Jesus as the giver of the love that he has received from his Father. And Jesus gifting this God-given love to you and me. This divine love cascades down from God to him to us, flooding us with God's unearned, undeserved grace. It falls on us and soaks us through and through like rain. You know, I lived in Colorado for a number of years, and in Colorado, sudden thunderstorms seemed to come out of no place in the summer. Lightning and thunder would flash in the distance, and then heavy drops of warm rain would fall. We lived on the edge of the Rocky Mountains for a number of years, and on one occasion I was looking out the window of my house, watching the neighborhood kids, one of whom was my son, Kevin, jumping around in the puddles and splashing each other. They were used to these storms, and the lightning and the thunder didn't scare them off because it was far off in the distance. But the storm had come so suddenly that they were still in their shorts and t-shirts, which were quickly soaked. But they still chased each other around from puddle to puddle, and they splashed each other and themselves. I was worried that Kevin might catch cold. So I got my raincoat, and I got my hat, my rain hat, and I got my umbrella, and I went outside to get him and pleaded with him to come inside. Of course, he didn't want to, but once the storm was over and the rain had stopped, I finally convinced him to come inside. probably bribed him with something, I don't know. He was soaked, but laughing uncontrollably. I peeled off my raincoat and hung up my rain hat and shook out my umbrella, but I was completely dry. I wasn't laughing. The love that cascaded down from God onto Jesus and onto us is like that rain that fell on our neighborhood in Colorado. It fell on everyone and everywhere. But as children might do, we can open up our bodies and our hearts to that falling love, and so we can be covered with it and soaked with it. Or, as many of us adults did, as I did, we can guard ourselves, protect ourselves from the falling rain. We can protect ourselves and guard ourselves from that falling love, that cascading love from Jesus. And so if we open ourselves up to God's love that Jesus has freely gifted to us, we can be filled and soaked with that same love. However, in reading John, this cascading love does not end with us. It flows through us, overflowing and spilling onto our children and our family. But just as Jesus gifted God's love to us, we are called to gift this love to others. As with God, who gave his love to Jesus, Jesus passed this unearned, unexpected love to us. We are called to pass this sacred love onto others who, like us, can't expect it, can't earn it, and won't be able to earn it. And so the message that John is saying, be alert for this unconditional love of God that has cascaded down to Jesus and cascaded down to us. Be alert. Look up and feel it rain upon you. And look around. Look around for someone to pass this sacred love on to someone else. Someone who's not expecting it. Someone who hasn't earned the love. As we didn't expect God's love, and we didn't earn God's love. Be alert and pass it forward. Amen.